This tutorial is for how to make translated entries using the Linguistic library software. So first, I'm here at an existing website that's already been pre-configured pretty well. So I'm going to log in. And it takes me to this profile page where I have the option right here to create a new entry. So you click that button, and here is the main page for composition. So you want to have a post name, and let's just call this one test post. And what you see here is there's one column and another column that basically have the same options, which is the order and the text, and then the split button here. The one on the left over here, this column is for the foreign language, or the language that you're trying to translate into something more familiar. This second row is the more familiar language, which would be, in this case, English. And this is Sindarin, but it could be anything. For this video, since I'm more familiar with Spanish, I'm going to go from Spanish to English. So let's just get right into it, and so I can show you what it looks like. Let's say I wanted to say green salad. Well, in Spanish you would say ensalada verde, which is actually backwards, which says salad and in green. But what you want to do is you want to align the words one to another. So if it says salad here, then the translation is the one right next to it. So this should actually say salad. That way it links up one word to another. Same thing with this, a verde would mean green. The problem with this, though, is that if I submit it right now, the English would be written backwards. You change that by changing the order. So you leave the order of the first column generally alone, because you want to prioritize the language that you want to see translated into something. And then the second language, the language you are translating into, accommodates itself to the ordering of the first language. And so let me just, I'm going to set this to private and submit. And now what you see is it says here, ensalada verde. So if you go over this with highlighting it, you see that ensalada highlights salad, which is the second word, and verde highlights green, which is the first word. So that's a really nifty way to make sure that it looks the same, looks the way you want it to look in the final page like this, while also highlighting things in the proper form. So let's get a bit more nuanced here. Let's explore some of the other features involved. Once you save your first entry and you go back to edit, you'll only see the columns that you filled in. But if you want to add more, like another word, you click here, add another word. And let's say I want to say ensalada verde y deliciosa, which means a green and delicious salad. So now we have here each word on this side is matching the correct translation here, but the order will have to be something more like that. Yep, there we go. So, ensalada verde y deliciosa, green and delicious salad. I don't actually like salad, so I don't know what I'm saying. Cool, so you guys with me so far? That's just the basic stuff. But one thing you could do is, say you wanted to emphasize a word. Well, we have the option for bold and italics on this, but we just add a pound sign for bold and an @ sign for italics. You just put it right in front of your word, and there you have it. And if you want to know what that looks like in italics, you can do it like that. Okay. So another thing that we might want to explore is what is all this on the side? What does all this mean? Well, if you have a dictionary installed, you can use root words to give much more context to your post. Right now, it's only face value. In other words, you only know as much as this word means that, and the story ends there. But you could have each word highlighted and bring up a dictionary word, or even an alphabetic symbol. And we'll get to that in a second. But for the root word, let's say I wanted to add a root word. So ensalada, the root, it doesn't exist in the dictionary because this is a Sindarin dictionary. But let's say I wanted to add it. I click the add, and ensalada. Let's say this is a dish with a mix of chopped there we go. So to close that, and now if I retype that up, you see that now I see a check mark instead of a plus sign because the word's already been recognized. And we can add another word here. Let's add delicious. The root word would actually be delicioso. Okay, so now we've made 2 root words, and I'm going to do the same thing here, retype it in. Oh, actually that's the word I put in. Okay, and now we have 2 root words which should link up to the words that we've just added. So when I submit, say ensalada, and you see over here it says ensalada, a dish with a mix of chopped vegetables usually served with dressing. So that gives far more context. So you have a threefold translation. You have the Spanish, what the English means in Spanish, and what the actual word, dictionary word, translates to. And let's see what else. We have deliciosa, right? Which the root word is delicioso, but I put here a note, feminine is deliciosa. Tasty and edible, delicious. Great. So that's how you add dictionary roots and their meanings, and you can use these roots in any other post because they're saved in your database. I want to show you guys something else too, which is the Tenguar column, or actually the alphabetic column. It's the same thing. Now, since it's already been pre-installed with an alphabet, but you can install your own through the admin panel. When you click this here, you get to see a list of the alphabet symbols for this language. Let me expand this here so you can see the whole thing. And this is the Tenguar writing system. So if I click, for example, and I'm not a Sindarin linguist, so I'm totally going to butcher this, but just for the sake of testing the software, I'm going to maybe click a few letters here. So we go for E, and then N, and I'm just going to type in the rest, N-S-A-L-A-D-A. Now the reason I'm adding spacing is because these words, these symbols are sometimes clusters like CHW, and to differentiate that from having a CH and then a W, you write CHW together, and then between a CH and a W, you add a spacing. The same goes for other clusters of words, so the way the software knows when to end one letter and start the next is by spaces. So in this case, everything is spaced out this way, and if I click Update, then I have here a custom translation in the Tengwar writing system. And if I go here, ensalada, it highlights that word too. So now I have a fourfold translation of the word. Now, this doesn't have to be Tengwar. You can upload your own alphabet using the admin panel, and you can make symbols into whatever language you want. That could be fictional or your own, or something more obscure that is not in the standard fonts that you see on the web. Now let's add a little more to our entry just to give it some more flavor. Let me flesh out some of this. So what you have here is an Add New Paragraph button. You click this, what happens is you have a line here with BR tags added, and what that does is it creates a division between the words above this line and then the words that will come below it. So if I add another word here, and let's say I say hello, and I click Update, then I'm going to see I started on a new line here. So this is the paragraph feature. It's really nifty, but you want to make sure that when you add the BR tags, you dedicate this whole row to the BR tags, because if you were to put something else in here, then it would be omitted, because it just treats this as a line break. So that's why you make the next line have the words that you want to follow, and not putting them right next to the word. But what if I also wanted to add a break between the words in this column? Well, I can do that. Yep, so now here this is also broken into a new line. Okay, so now let's go to the final column, which is the grammar column. Let's get a little more in depth into what this side of things means. So let's go with the notes first. We had a curious case here where delicioso, the masculine root word, was used when deliciosa was the word we were actually spelling. So something like that, which takes knowing about the language, knowing about the nuance of it. If somebody is reading your entry and they don't know that, you can let them know by adding notes to every word or any word that you want. So for this one, I'm going to say, okay, so I added a note, and right here we see in a deliciosa, which is delicious, the root word being delicioso. Feminine is deliciosa, a tasty and edible delicious food. But the note I put, this adjective is feminine due to ensalada being feminine, causing it to have an A ending. And that's true because deliciosa is referring to ensalada, which is feminine. If it was something like mango, it would be delicioso. Mango verde y delicioso. So this note lets the reader know why it is that it's being used as deliciosa instead of delicioso. This comes in handy a lot when you're doing a lot of translations, or if you're in a class or you're giving a class and you want that nuance to be represented. Now, this note we added is great on its own, but there's another way to add notes like this, especially if you're doing high volume translations. Suppose that you wanted to denote the masculine or feminine of a word just by using a quick drop-down menu to designate it as masculine or feminine. We can do that using something like the morphologies. In this case, we've added things specific to Sindarin, but we can see a few options here. For example, this word is a noun. Or if we go down here to deliciosa, we know this is an adjective, so we go type of word, adjective. And now what that does is, in the admin panel, we designated what that type of word means and what might apply to it in the context of its surroundings. So for example, if in a certain language adjectives behave a certain way, then if it's designated as an adjective, you can describe that behavior in an internal note that is laid down. And to show you that note, let me save this. And so we have here deliciosa, which is delicious. Adjective: this word supplies attributes to nouns to give a more complete picture of what the noun represents. In this case, we're using descriptions of the terms, which is helpful on its own, but you could also have these give explanations as to how it behaves in the environment. It's totally up to you, and these don't have to be designations of grammar. They could be designations of things like origin or dialect. So for example, let's say I'm writing in Spanish, but one of the words I use is like vosotros, which comes from the Spain use of Spanish, not like the Mexican version of Spanish. And that could be something that I could designate, especially if I'm doing a long entry. I could pre-make that drop-down option and use it whenever I need to use it. So that's a really neat way to do things as well. And I think the last thing I want to show you guys, as far as making compositions, is the word split feature. So there are times when a sentence doesn't break up properly in another language, word per word. Sometimes one word translates to many, and sometimes a whole sentence. So let's change this here, and I'm going to create a sentence below the other one that says Nunca llorábamos. Now what this really means is we never cried. But the phrase we never cried has never in between we and cried. But we and cried are are the same word here. So what for the English, you really want to have this word inserted right in the middle of this one, which isn't possible unless you have the split feature. So nunca is never, and llorábamos, we can split the word into its two components. For example, we, it's past tense cried, so let's say used to cry. And then we can use the ordering to change this around. So if we have this come first and go like that, then we'll have we will come first, then we will come first, and then never comes next, and then used to cry comes at the end. So this is what the split feature can do, and to show you what that looks like, let's update this. So we have here nunca, which is never, and it highlights right here with this one and this one being to the sides. But if you notice, these both highlight this word over here. So we used to cry is llorábamos. Nunca is never. Together, nunca llorábamos means we never used to cry. And it's been split this way so that the grammar can make sense in the translated version. And the word order is also correct. So that's a really great feature that we thought was really good to have. And yeah, that's about it as far as it goes with the basics of composition. And you can always tinker around with it, of course, to do whatever you want to customize the language, the grammar, the notes. But thank you guys for watching this video, and I'll catch you later.